to get off on, but I think it's important to keep in mind that when we're talking about holding back, it could be coming from that, right? That so many young people, when they're in front of other people, we are afraid to expose ourselves in that way, to really show too much of who we are. And so I'm coming full circle with it actually being psychological now. So now it's not just that our thinking processes are getting sort of bound up in wondering, like all of these thoughts, like, oh, what does he think? And oh, I just messed up. And oh, look at that person over there, and like they're staring at me, and like I'm gonna mess up, you're projecting, all those thoughts can be happening that wouldn't be there when you're singing and practicing not in front of people. And that's siphoning off some of the brain power and some of the presence that you need to actually feed into your voice. So from that level, you're already holding back. There's a thinness. But I would postulate that it is more of a psychological issue, and it's more about the fact of being afraid to be really heard and being afraid to be really seen. And that it's not just about, the physical body or the sound of our voice. It's the metaphorical sharing of who we are on a deeper, more profound level that really, in many cases, is not welcome in many circles, right? There's so many people out there these days that just really don't want to go there. They don't want to talk about there being anything other than this materialistic, scientism, five senses type of world. And the voice can't help but bring us and transport us there. Many people say that the human voice is the instrument that invokes the most emotion out of other people, that all music can invoke emotion, there's no question. The human voice is what really pulls the emotions to the surface, pulls the connection to the surface, brings people to tears, just from hearing music or that they relate to. And so there is, I think, something incredibly powerful that even another instrument is once removed from. Now you can debate that. I get that, because I think many people can develop such a connection with their instrument that they get there, right? Easily they get there. And all of music itself is generating these frequencies, these sound waves, and those very sound waves themselves are often what transports us or connects us in these, supernatural ways. But the voice itself, because it's embedded inside of our body, and if you are not afraid of who you are, then you can instantly, very deeply connect with your soul and your spirit and your creator. And this is why worship, true worship, is so important, because now you're using your body and your vehicle to praise your creator. And all of this is in, bringing about, or could sort of be seen as a portal for the creator's love and the creator's magic and the creator's blessing to be able to pour into this world that for whatever reason seems very off track with that, right? This gets a little bit into the idea of we live in a fallen world. Before the fall, maybe this world was very much connected with the creator, and it was easy for all of us to just sing, and we didn't question why we would want to thank the creator, because we had such a wonderful relationship with him. We were so thankful for the infinite love and power that the creator had, and our ability to contribute to his creation. That was what we wanted. This is my postulation, but I'm not holding back. I'll share my opinion on these matters now. So that's the way I see it. And for whatever reason, we've fallen out of that. And in that process of falling out, many of us have been very committed and vigilant to getting back in alignment with our creator. And music is very powerful to do this, but music can also be very powerful to get people out of alignment, right? And I've talked a lot about this when I get into the 432 versus, 444, and the idea of music being weaponized against us, and the importance of us taking music back. And because of all of this, It is very sad when you're somebody who's relatively young, and you come to a place where you realize that you want to sing, and somehow you can't quite do it. You can't quite unleash who you know yourself to be or what you know your voice to sound like in the opportunity when the opportunity arises. This was certainly the case for me for a very long time. I mean, I was so out of alignment that I couldn't sing in front of anyone until I was in my late 20s. Now, I will say I was able to sing with groups. It was fine if I was singing with other people. But there was some opportunities that came to me in my early 20s, and I very much could have stepped up and said, I will, it's me, Lord, let me do it. And I did not. And that's one of the honest to goodness worst feelings I think you can have. It's holding back, I think, is also connected with hesitation. And I've done this many, many times. I've battled with this, and to a point where it's felt like a curse or a spirit on me or a program in me, because so often it happens in an unconscious way, and I am not able to just say, hey, Lyndol, quit doing that, right? More often than not, with these type of patterns, with this type of ingrained hesitation or shyness, I don't believe it's who we really are, but at some point it became so much a part of this earthly personality we have, for whatever reason, that it takes a lot of vigilance to get out of it. And that's where working on your singing voice can be so wonderful. Even working on your public speaking, which is something that I've gotten more into recently because I got to the point where I'm so comfortable singing in front of people, but speaking in front of people still brings up a lot of hesitation, a lot of second guessing, a lot of holding back. And so that's why I'm coming to this topic today, because for me, probably for the rest of my life, I will be coming out of this pattern where I was so shut down, so shy, and like I said, I would hesitate. Sometimes I would step up and say, yeah, I'll do it, but only after a certain amount of hesitation in which I lost the momentum, I lost the opportunity, or if I did actually, it was like I didn't nail it, right? Because sometimes the timing is so important, and this is where the idea of holding back comes in too. It's like you kind of got to just show up and say 100%. Same thing with your singing. You have to be able to step up and really not be worried about what anyone in the audience is thinking, really not be siphoning off any of your power or your thoughts. This is a moment of taking all thoughts captive, taking every thought captive, that you are able to be completely fully present with your singing voice and the expression of it, what you are saying, what you are singing. When you can do that, it's incredible the power that comes with your voice, both on your own life as well as those that get to hear it, whether it's one person or 0 people or 10,000 people, right? It's this confidence that has to be there, but it cannot be faked. And this is where you'll see it, because there are many people who act very confident, but when you actually hear them get on stage or actually get an opportunity, they go back to that half voice, or you can hear the hesitation, or you can, and that happened to me many, many times with musicians that I would play with. We would be talking up the moon. We had this opportunity come in, and we'd be at rehearsals, and there was no sign of hesitation at all. And then we would get to a gig and get in front, and suddenly that person, I'm going to just say metaphorically, would almost be like hiding behind my pant legs, like a little kid. I don't think they were aware of it. Sometimes we're not even aware of it, or maybe they were just doing everything they could to actually just do the gig. Because the amount of fear that can come up, the amount of anxiety that can come up, the amount of your brain, I call it gig brain. The gig brain kicks in and you can't think straight. You really can't. And so you're just doing everything you can to just try to get the gig done. And you don't realize that by being in that place, fear has kind of taken over and overshadowed. And I would just find it fascinating that that would be the case with certain musicians, that they just, when the opportunity came, they weren't able to step up. And listen, I'm one of them. In certain scenarios, I wasn't, but in the really, especially the more that I did it, it's like I came out of it. Well, let me back up and just say this. That was a big part of what I was focused on. Music as a metaphor, it felt like if I faced this fear of, holding back my voice, every single opportunity I got, if I did that, then I would be able to get over it and bust it up forever. I will admit that I really wasn't even there until I was out of music school. And when I look back at music school, I was holding back a lot. There was so many opportunities, and really music school is the perfect place to be out really trying. But the thing that held me back, and this is where you want to look at your excuses, right? You want to see what are the reasons that you're holding back, because it will always be rationalized in some very reasonable way. And many times for me, it'd be like, oh, well, that's a better musician, so I'm not going, it's all about the music. So I'm going to let that musician play. I'm going to let them play. I'm going to, that's a better piano. So all of that is really the wrong mindset. I mean, it would have been pretty selfish of me to just not let other musicians come in and take over completely, especially if they were much better pianists or much better singers. But there's another side to it that I saw later when I was out of music school, and it was this one of the students I taught, and she was tenacious, man. She just never had fear when it came to music. She would mess up. She wouldn't even necessarily practice as much, but she never had this shame or this fear or this holding back. It just wasn't in her. And she ended up inspiring me, and especially as she was more classically focused, but as she got into high school, she joined a jazz band, and she never shied away from an opportunity to sit at that piano and play. And the truth was, she half the time didn't know what the heck she was doing in those early years. She came from classical, but she was so tenacious, and that's how you learn. That's how jazz musicians learn. You give yourself permission to get up there and sound bad, and you own that. But that's how your full voice, your full musical voice can come online. You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to sound bad. And you have to look at whatever excuses are holding you back. You have to. It's just the way that it works. But what's so amazing is that when you do, music as a metaphor, you find that there are things that are holding you back in your whole life. It's not just music, okay? Music is a microcosm. Your music practice is a microcosm for what's actually happening on a larger scale.